If Pokemon Go gets handed off to another developer, is it going to survive? Is it actually going to succeed? I really do not know, but I do think this is worth a discussion. Of course, this is because the news broke recently that Niantic is presumably trying to sell Pokemon Go and their entire games division, and the number one buyer is going to be Scopely Inc. But we really do not know if any of this is actually true. But regardless, I really want to explore the idea of Pokemon Go being in the hands of another developer, and whether or not that is actually going to be a good thing for the game as well as the Pokemon Go community. And that's precisely what I want to talk about in today's video. Let's talk about it. Hey, how's it going everyone? Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon Go video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. Alright, so a couple of days ago, news broke that Niantic is presumably selling Pokemon Go and their entire games division for a whopping $3.5 billion. And the buyer is supposedly Scopely Inc., which is an infamous game development studio which is responsible for purchasing and developing games like Marvel Strike Force and Monopoly Go. And the community for those players have always had mixed feelings regarding Scopely Inc. Some players have told me that it was actually a really good change and the game had improved significantly, and other people are saying that those games actually downgraded quite significantly and they were just littered with a whole bunch of monetization practices that were incredibly predatory. And I totally understand that that is a possibility for Pokemon Go, now that Scopely Inc. is eyeing to buy the entire games division for Niantic. But in my opinion, I think this is something that could be a really good thing for Pokemon Go. I think when you think about Niantic and how they've treated Pokemon Go, I think this game needs to be in the hands of actual game developers. Yes, even with aggressive monetization practices, there's a very high possibility that Pokemon Go is just not going to be free-to-play friendly, and in turn, it's going to drive away a lot of players. That's definitely a possibility. But if you think about Pokemon Go and all of the issues that players have had regarding Pokemon Go, a lot of that is a result of Niantic's attitude towards their games. When it comes to Niantic, a lot of people think that it is a game development studio, but in reality, it is a technology development studio and their primary focus is on AR mapping. I really do not think that they are the right company for a game like Pokemon Go. Yeah, Pokemon Go was developed by Niantic and they certainly did a lot of really good back-end work. Pokemon Go wouldn't exist without Niantic's technology, and that's obviously a given. But when it comes to game development, when it comes to gameplay, and when it comes to certain balances in terms of PvP and raid battles, I really do not think Niantic has had a full grasp on how to make a proper game. I'm not trying to knock on Niantic, it just seems very evident based on all of my personal experiences with Pokemon Go, as well as the experiences of some of my friends who have either quit the game or they're still playing the game, but very reluctantly. So, I don't know, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, in my opinion, that we're going to be seeing a different developer handling Pokemon Go. There's definitely a lot of room for improvement within Pokemon Go, and I also think there's also a high possibility that when it comes to raid battles and when it comes to the remote raid pass nerf, that could be something that will get reverted. I really hope it does, and we really do not know if it actually will, but it's a very strong possibility. The reason why I say that is because if you think about Scopely Inc., for example, it does seem like they have a very strong emphasis on monetization when it comes to their games. And if they were to add a whole bunch of egregious predatory monetization practices in Pokemon Go, I do feel like that's something that we're already used to given Niantic's practices over the past couple of years. But I think the big money maker that they would be sitting on is remote raid passes, and they probably know that when remote raid passes were unnerfed, and they probably were making ham over fist when it came to money. So I think that's a very strong possibility that a company like Scopely Inc. would revert a lot of those changes so that they could get all of that revenue that Niantic was generating. But that's also kind of wishful thinking, right? Like, we really do not know what a different game studio would do with a game as massive as Pokemon Go. We do not know if they're going to get rid of Pokemon Go Fests or if they're going to continue to have Pokemon Go Fests, but they're going to have them in the Middle East, closer to Saudi Arabia. We really do not know what's going to happen. There's a lot of things that are up in the air. We do not know if they're going to open up an America branch, like if they're going to keep all of the developers from Niantic, and they're just going to make different decisions. We really do not know if Nintendo is going to have a major hand in this deal. We do not know if the quality control from Nintendo and the Pokémon Company is going to keep Pokémon GO the way it is. But ultimately, what I think is going to happen is that an actual game developer is going to work on Pokémon GO, and I think that alone is a huge blessing. I do not think Niantic has the capabilities to create a very fun experience. They certainly have the capabilities to develop really cool technology with AR and mapping and different things like that, but when it comes to game development, I just feel like they've always been lacking, and it really shows. Like, there are so many games out there that are pretty fun, and the reason for that is because they have talented designers, they have very creative people behind those games, and I feel like there's also other games where it's more of a tech demo that's disguised as a game. And for the longest time, I really felt like Pokemon GO was exactly that. They always seem to add different mechanics, they always have such a huge emphasis on exploration. They really want to get you to basically send them data regarding mapping and AR tools and different things like that. Even though they've told me directly that that's not their aim, that they don't necessarily care too much about getting data from players, I think that's a complete falsehood. That's not a correct statement at all. It's very obvious. I mean, if you think about even AR mapping, and if you think about all of the different things that they already have in the game, it's all data that's being sent to generate this map that they want to do. Like, I feel like everything within Pokemon GO is directly tied to the technology that's behind it. That's something that you do see when it comes to like interviews with John Hanke, when it comes to just the approach that a lot of the developers have towards Pokemon GO. It just doesn't seem like they're game developers. And a reason why I believe this very strongly is because I used to be in the game industry. I used to be a producer for a small indie game studio nearby, and they are still around. They actually make a lot of really cool games. Yeah, they've certainly made a lot of shovelware, and I did work on a lot of that shovelware, but there was always some passion behind it. There was always some creativity behind even the licensed titles that people would not be excited to play. There was always just that level of people just trying to create a fun experience. And I really do think that goes a long way when it comes to how successful a game can be. When it comes to Pokemon GO though, I don't ever feel that passion. I don't necessarily feel like a lot of the developers over at Niantic actually have experience developing games. I feel like they have a ton of experience developing technology. They have a ton of experience developing software. But when it comes to Pokemon GO, I just feel like there's just a lot of core design mechanics that are just blatantly obvious that they completely miss. And I do think that's incredibly frustrating, especially for me as a Pokemon GO player. And I really do think that for a company like Scopely Inc., they could fix a lot of those issues, even if there's going to be predatory monetization practices. I think it's going to be a give and take. Yeah, we're going to see some aggressive monetization if it turns out that Scopely Inc. is the one that's going to take the reins. I do think there's going to be advertisements in Pokemon GO. I do think there's going to be FOMO mechanics, you know? Like, there is a possibility that when a shiny appears and it's a super rare shiny, they might give you a guaranteed catch for like $2. You know, that is something they could definitely do. Or maybe they're gonna have something where you need to spend money in order to even get shinies. I don't know. There's definitely a lot of possibilities for some very downgraded gameplay and a lot of egregious predatory practices. But at the same time, I also feel like, just based on everything that I've seen with what they've done with Marvel Strike Force and with all the other games, they do seem to have a grasp on basic game design. I think, you know, that's just, it's kind of sad, but at the very least they have that. So, you know, I do think that there is some possibilities for some positivity to come out of this acquisition. I think there's a lot of doomsaying right now. I think a lot of players are just being very hyperbolic when it comes to this acquisition. I think there's some players who feel like the game is about to die out. And there's some players who just outright do not want to support a game studio from Saudi Arabia. I totally understand that. There's definitely a lot of political baggage behind that country. There's a lot of civil rights issues and violations that the country has faced. And I do think that for a lot of people, that actually matters a lot. So, yeah, besides that though, I think when it comes to Pokemon Go, I think it's going to be safe. I think regardless of whatever a company like Scopely Inc. does, I think there's always going to be a base of players that's going to keep the game going. I've already seen that with Marvel Strike Force. Even though the game has certainly declined in terms of player base, I do feel like they do have a core base of players that are still playing that game. So yeah, I think for myself, I think I'm going to continue to make Pokemon Go content even after this change. And who knows, maybe this change will not happen. I said this in a previous video, but there is a high likelihood that Niantic may keep Pokemon Go. There is a high likelihood that Nintendo might veto this trade or this acquisition. There's a lot of possibilities, and we really do not know what's going to happen. We do not have any official announcements. We do not have any official word from either Scopely or Niantic. It's just all stuff that's up in the air, and until some concrete info comes out, we just have to kind of speculate on what the game is going to be like, as well as what we can expect as Pokemon Go players. But yeah, if you're feeling a little bit hopeless, if you feel like a lot of the time spent in Pokemon Go is about to go to waste, I would say that you should not worry. I think the game is going to be in good hands regardless. I think whoever is going to take over Pokemon Go, they're going to know that they have a cash cow on their hands, and if they do not want to lose out on all of that potential revenue, then they obviously need to take care of it. And I really do think that for something as big as Pokemon Go, that is definitely going to be something that's going to be on the minds of whoever develops the game. But yeah, regardless, I really do not think Niantic was ever the right people for developing a game like Pokemon Go. That's just my personal opinion. I really do like Niantic. I really do think they have talented developers, but like I said, I just do not see it. I just cannot fathom that if they were to continue to develop Pokemon Go, that it would last for 5 to 10 years. I really do think in order for this game to have longevity, it needs to go to someone else, even if it's someone like Scopely Inc. So that's just my personal opinion on all of this. I will continue to make videos on this topic, but more when we get some concrete info. I just wanted to share some of these thoughts because after I made the video talking about this news, I had a lot more thought. I had a lot more time to think about it and let it soak in. So yeah, these are just some of my thoughts that I came up with in that time. So yeah, but anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts regarding all of this down below. Are you still worried about Pokemon Go, like with the introduction of a completely different game developer, or are you very hopeful about it? I would really like to know what you're thinking. So if you have any thoughts regarding all of this, definitely share it in the comments down below, and yeah, let's all have a great discussion. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. Real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel and everything that I do, make sure you go and check out my Patreon because that's going to be the best way you can support me. And if you decide to become a paid Patreon member, I'm going to add you to my Pokemon Go friends list. That's the main perk. So when it comes to stuff like remote raids and the friendship system, if you want to play Pokemon Go with me personally, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, you're always welcome to do so by following me on social media. I'm on the platforms that you see on the bottom of your screen. My handle is @CountJinsula. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow. That's going to be it for this video. I'm Count Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.